Well, hello and welcome to this English lesson where we're going to talk about words and phrases you can use in English when something goes wrong in life. Life has a funny way of going sideways sometimes, we sometimes say. Usually life is smooth. Usually you have a good day, you have a good night, you have a good day, but every once in a while things go wrong. So in this English lesson, I'll help you learn those English words and phrases. Please listen to each word as I teach it, and also listen to the phrases I use when I talk about each individual word, because I sometimes add quite a bit more information as I'm talking about it. So once again, welcome to this English lesson about words and phrases to use when things go wrong. So the first word I have is crash, and this is an interesting word because you can crash into someone. Like if you're driving your car and you hit someone else, you can crash into them. But then we also say that you are in a crash. So we kind of use it as a verb and a noun. When you crash into someone, it means you hit them. Sometimes at the grocery store, I'm driving my grocery cart and I accidentally crash into something because sometimes I'm looking at food when I should be looking at where I'm going. I actually crashed into someone else's cart a couple of weeks ago. It was a little bit embarrassing. But to crash, when you crash into something, it means that usually you're driving a car or something else and you lose control. That's another phrase we use. You lose control and then maybe you crash. Hopefully you don't get hurt. And then this is one that any of you who have children or hang around with children would know, and it's to spill. When you spill something, like if I take this cup and if I accidentally bumped into the cup, the water would spill out of the cup. And interestingly enough, we use this the same way. We use it as a verb, like you can spill the water spilled out of the cup, and then you have a spill. So this little guy here, he spilled his milk and now there is a spill on the table and he is wiping up that spill. Never fun. When we had little kids, it's never fun in the morning when you're trying to get out the door to go to work and suddenly something goes wrong. One of your kids spills something and you have to clean it up. Topple, if you've ever played this game, it's called Jenga. It's a game where you stack blocks and eventually the blocks will topple. You can also topple something over, like if you push a stack of things. But a good example would be if you stack a whole bunch of boxes up and the boxes aren't very stable, like if they kind of move back and forth, eventually the boxes will topple over. So it's similar to fall. It's similar to fall down. But it does have kind of a unique case. When I was walking in from the barn a few months ago, I was carrying a whole bunch of buckets and then they toppled over, which means they kind of ended up falling. Never fun. When something topples over, it's good if nothing breaks. Stuck. So this is a good one for this time of year. When you talk about things going wrong, when it's winter, one of the things that can go wrong is that you get stuck. This guy is driving in really deep snow, and eventually he might get stuck. He might be stuck right now. When you're stuck, you can't move forward or backwards. Your wheels spin. It makes this sound. Zzz, zzz. That's literally the sound you'll hear when you are stuck in the snow. Maybe in your country, you can be stuck in the mud. Maybe it rains a lot and the soil gets really wet and you can end up getting stuck in the mud. But it's never fun to get stuck. I cleaned my driveway already this morning because there is a truck coming today to deliver something, and I don't want the truck to get stuck in the snow. That rhymes, doesn't it? I don't want the truck to get stuck in the snow. Rip or tear, these are very similar. You might be familiar with ripped jeans. Sometimes people buy their jeans like this. For someone old like me, that doesn't make sense. But the other day I was walking and my pants got caught on a nail and I ripped my pants. So my pants ended up having a rip in them. Notice once again, I ripped my pants and I ended up with a rip in it. We use the word tear as well, but I think when you're talking about jeans and clothing, we usually talk about rip. It's when something happens that makes a hole in the clothing that you are wearing. You could use the word tear as well. Like, oh, I have a tear. There's a tear in the sleeve of my shirt. That would be totally appropriate as well. Break. Sometimes things break. This is probably one of the most common ways to describe something when it's no longer whole. Okay. We would say that when you throw a rock at a window, the window will break. When something breaks, we then say it is broken. Okay. So when you break something, it then becomes broken. All of my windows in my house are in perfect shape. I don't have any broken windows. Although when I use the snowblower, it shot snow at the house. And when it does that, it sometimes shoots little stones. So I have to be careful because I don't want to break a window. So sometimes your tire goes flat, and sometimes your tire goes flat because it is punctured. When something is punctured, it means it gets a hole in it. If you drive over a nail is a sharp piece of metal that you bang into wood. But if you drive over a nail, it will puncture your tire. The nail will go through the tire and it will make a hole in it. It will puncture your tire. Never a good day when you walk out to the parking lot and see that somehow you drove on a nail and it punctured your tire. And then again, we would call this a flat tire. So the puncture is what caused the air to come out, but now we would simply call it a flat tire. Fracture. So has Bob the Canadian ever broken any bones? Yes, I fractured my wrist once when I was really young. And I think that's it. I think that's the only time I've had a cast on. I fractured my wrist. When you fracture something, it's another way to say that it is broken, okay? When you break a bone, like if you do something crazy, like you go skiing and you break your leg, we would also say that the bone is fractured, that you fractured a bone. Never a good time when that happens. Definitely would be a good example of something going wrong. Hey, outside we have some places on our farm where there is concrete, where they have poured concrete and then it gets hard and you have this nice hard surface. But sometimes it will crack. When you look at buildings in your town, sometimes on the wall of the building, you'll see that the wall has cracked. When something cracks, it means it breaks. And we usually use this to describe like the blocks in a wall are cracked sometimes, or cement or concrete can crack. But it simply means something is no longer completely whole. It has these little lines where it has broken, where it has cracked. So this is a flower with some snow on it, and this flower I think is frozen. Sometimes things go wrong because of the weather. Sometimes the temperature goes really low and things freeze. When things freeze, sometimes if it's something like a flower, it dies. So sometimes that can be a bad thing. Sometimes in the winter, some people have it where the pipes in their house freeze. The pipes in their house are frozen. When a pipe freezes, the water turns to ice inside of it and the pipe can burst. So sometimes one of the things in life where things go wrong is when the temperature goes really low and things become frozen or things freeze. Notice the difference in use between frozen and freeze. And this man is, this has happened to me before. When something splits, it means it comes apart. When you put a nut in a nutcracker, it splits the nut open. This man bent over and his pants have split. He has split his pants. This actually happened to me once where I was working on something and I bent it down and my pants split at the back. Very embarrassing. It happened at work. I quickly went and changed into some shorts that I found, but never never a dull moment when something like this happens to someone, when you split your pants. And be careful, it can happen to anybody. On fire. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why I'm laughing about this one, but if this happens, something is definitely going wrong. If your car is on fire, that is definitely a bad day for you. So one of the things that can go wrong in life is something might be on fire. Hopefully not, but your house might be on fire, your car might be on fire. This is very rare. This does not happen very often, but definitely this would be something going wrong. And of course, when something's on fire, it means that someone has taken a lighter or a match, or maybe something has malfunctioned that causes a fire to start, and then something is on fire. Never a good day when something's on fire that's not supposed to be. And then, of course, sometimes things are just busted. This is an interesting word, and it's very, very common. People will say, my phone's busted, my computer's busted. The light that I normally use is busted. That fan doesn't work, it's busted. I think it's probably the most common way to describe something that is broken. So you can use broken as well, but I hear this word a lot. Like students in class will say, my computer's busted, or I'm trying to think of another example. Yeah, definitely broken and busted, but you can see this phone is busted. Definitely the screen's all cracked. And then broken, as I said. So this car is broken. Sometimes with vehicles, we also say broken down, but you could just use broken. This car is definitely broken. My van was actually broken a couple of weeks ago, but it seems to be fine now, so that's good. And again, when something is broken, it means that something has gone wrong with it and it's not doing what it's normally supposed to do. If your computer is broken or your car is broken, it's not working properly. So there's also things can go wrong when you forget things. Sometimes Jen and I are shopping and Jen will say, did you turn the stove off? Or did you turn the oven off? Sometimes you forget things. Humans forget things. Your day can go wrong if you go to work and you forget to take your briefcase, or you forget to take your computer. I've actually a few times in my life gone to work, realized that I forgot my computer at home and had to go back home to get it. So sometimes you forget things, and that can be another thing that goes wrong. Sometimes things just fall over. This doesn't happen very often around me, but we did have a windstorm a few months ago, and then things definitely fall over. Trees fall over, telephone poles fall over. Sometimes when you're going somewhere, rarely, but sometimes when you're going somewhere after a big storm, you'll notice that a lot of things have fallen over, and then road crews need to come and clean them up. And sometimes things fall down. So people have asked, why do we have the word down? Like, why don't you just say the hot air balloon fell? Why do you say the hot air balloon fell down? I don't know why. It's just an extra word. If something falls, it's obviously going down. But for some reason in English, sometimes we like to add an extra word. So sometimes maybe you fall down. That would be a problem. That would be something going wrong in your day. But definitely sometimes things can fall down. You could even use this with the tree. You could say that the tree fell down or the tree fell over. Notice fall becomes fell in the past tense. But yes, sometimes things fall down, and that can be something going wrong in your day as well. So a broken heart. Sometimes you're heartbroken. Sometimes you find someone and you fall in love, and then the relationship just doesn't work, and then you end up breaking up, and then maybe your heart is broken. When you have a broken heart, it means you're sad. It means maybe you still love the person. Now, you can also use heartbroken to describe sadness in general, but we usually use heartbroken or a broken heart to talk more about romantic stuff, I think. I'm trying to think, like, if a loved one passes away, if someone in your family that you love dies, you would be heartbroken. We would say that. But I think broken heart refers to romantic love, and heartbroken can be romantic love or just love for a family member. I see Modags in the chat say, yes, I've been waiting for this one. And then the emoji of a broken heart. Yes, always definitely not a happy time when that happens. So I talked about forgetting things. You can also say that something was left on. Okay. So when you use the stove, when you turn on the burner, and then maybe you end up forgetting and it's left on, and you go out, and then when you come home, there's a fire in your house. So this is a good one. It's like you forgot something was left on, and now something's on fire. But definitely when you use machines, when you're done with certain machines, you should turn off the machine. And sometimes things can go wrong if a machine is left on, that a machine that should be turned off. And then there's always, of course, a leak. We have pipes in our house. The pipes are used for water. Water is moved from one part of the house to the other through pipes. And sometimes a pipe will get a hole in it. And we usually say that the pipe springs a leak. You could just say the pipe has a leak, but you could also say, it got really cold, the pipe's froze, and now this pipe has sprung a leak. There's a leak in the pipe. This is never fun when there's a leak, especially in the winter, because it's kind of cold and it's hard to fix pipes when they break in the winter and when they leak. Sometimes there's no electricity. Sometimes there's a power outage, and that can be something that goes wrong. Right now in Canada, if we had a power outage, it's very bad because people aren't able to keep their houses warm. A power outage is when the lights go off, everything in your house turns off, and then you have to wait for them to fix something because the power isn't working. So we also in English would say, we would say we're having a power outage, or we have no electricity right now, or the power is out. Those are ways to say it, at least in my part of Ontario, Canada. Sometimes something is missing. Maybe your keys are missing. Maybe you're doing a puzzle and a piece is missing. Maybe you went somewhere with your brother and he wandered away and now he's missing. That's a bad example, but this can be an example of something going wrong. Sometimes things are missing or people are missing. We once at the mall couldn't find, our son walked around the corner, and for a brief minute, our son was missing for like 30 seconds. And Jen and I were like, where'd he go? Where'd he go? And then we quickly found him back. But definitely when something is missing. So again, when something is missing, it means you can't see it. It's not there. You're not sure where it is. And then here's another thing. Sometimes things get canceled. So I have the word cancel here. When you cancel something, you decide that you're not going to do it. When something is canceled, it means it's not going to happen anymore. The best example would be flights. Sometimes flights are canceled. But sometimes maybe you're planning a trip and then, let's just pretend someone was planning a trip and then they found out that they had COVID. They did a test and they found out they had COVID. They would need to cancel their trip, okay? Or they could rebook their trip. Not to say too much, but if you want to hear a story similar to that, go to Brent's channel, American English with this guy, and watch his latest video. I think it's still his latest. I didn't check this morning, but Brent had to cancel something, and I feel bad for him. So sickness. So sickness can certainly be something that goes wrong. For me, a few weeks ago when my family and when I myself had COVID, having a sickness or being sick is not fun. It changes all your plans. And then you have to cancel things. There's things that you can't do. Sickness is definitely an example of something going wrong in your life. Never fun to be sick, but always fun to get better. I always feel really good after I get better when I am 100% again. I love that. Brent in the chat says, yeah, I have experience in canceling flights. I'm sure you do. I'm not laughing at you, Brent. I just think that it did seem, it was like a coincidence that I was planning a lesson about when things go wrong when you emailed me. So I was planning a lesson about when things go wrong. And then, like, within an hour or two, Brent emailed me and said, my wife and I just tested positive. And then I went and watched his video later that day. So it was, coincidence. Two things happening at the same time. Bad weather. So bad weather can be, if you're planning something that's going to be outdoors, maybe you're going to an outdoor wedding, maybe you're planning to go to a restaurant that has outdoor seating. And then if there's bad weather, if there's rain or snow or sleet or hail, any of the weather that we consider bad weather, it can be something, it can definitely be described as something going wrong in your day. It's never fun when it rains on a day when you're planning to do something outside. Sometimes you run out of stuff. You might not know what this is, but this is an empty bag of milk. In Canada, at least in Ontario, Canada, we buy milk in bags, and sometimes you run out of milk, and this can be a problem. My children love to drink milk, and sometimes we run out of milk. When you run out of something, it means you don't have any more, and you have to buy some more. So I still remember one of my kids wanted milk when they were really little. And I said, we don't have any. And they said, well, you need to buy some more. And I thought, well, here's how it goes. This is where kids start telling parents what they need to buy. But when you run out of something, it means you don't have it. You can run out of bread. You can run out of milk. You can run out of water. It's pretty common. Dave in the chat says, we run out of milk all the time. Yeah, it's a pretty common problem. It's a small problem, but it is a problem. Of course, there's traffic. Sometimes you end up in a traffic jam. Sometimes you are trying to get somewhere very quickly and you end up in a traffic jam. Never fun to be stuck in traffic. In fact, in Ontario, Canada right now, there are a lot of truckers who are protesting by driving to the capital city of Ottawa, and that's causing some traffic jams. They are driving to protest some of the vaccine mandates and other mandates that we have in Canada. So, and sometimes you trip. Sometimes you're walking, and when you trip, this is me tripping. I walk, and then maybe you fall down. Maybe you catch yourself and you don't fall down. But certainly when you trip, it is not an enjoyable experience at all.